Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Michiko Kuroda. I'm a visiting fellow on UN Affairs to the Center of Global Engagement. I'm also a faculty member at the International Relations and Diplomacy Program. Thank you for joining us to our International Week. Today is day 2. So today we are celebrating World Toilet Day. Tomorrow on November 19, the world will be celebrating World Toilet Day and in so many countries, but here we are celebrating this day one day ahead. This is a very important topic that will affect so many things happening in the world. And so now so today we have a very experienced speakers and practitioners and with a lot of practice and theories. So let us begin. But first, I would like to introduce to you today's presenters. First is, let me see. Sorry, the screen was frozen. The first speaker is Marshall Brewster. She was president of the United Nations Association, UNA USA, Westchester chapter from 2011 to 2018. And she has been serving on the UNA USA National Council since 2018. She worked for the United Nations for over 30 years, both in New York and in Bangkok. She was a senior officer for water resources in the Sustainable Development Division at the UN headquarters. And she served as a manager of the UN's Interagency Task Force on Gender and Water, and is deeply concerned about gender equality and women's empowerment. She has done many more, but she also has a master's degree in foreign service from Georgetown University. Our next speaker is Dr. Thomas Cohen, and he is a professor of environmental sustainability and justice at Patel College of Global Sustainability in University of South Florida, Tampa. And he's also visiting faculty researchers at School of National Science and Psychology and Behavioral Sciences. He is also founder of Solar Cities, and he's also founder of Rosebud Continuum. He has a PhD degree in environmental science from University of California in Los Angeles. So now we will start with Marshall Brewster. The topic is water, sanitation, and gender issues for World Toilet Day 2020. So let's welcome Marshall Brewster, and I'm going to now show the slide. Okay, so let's welcome Marshall Brewster.
Great, thank you very much, Professor Kuroda. It's great to partner with you again and with Mercy College. And I've always enjoyed working with your students for the Model UN programs and our public outreach events. So I'm very happy to be here. This is water, sanitation, and gender issues for actually the 21st century and for World Toilet Day, which will be tomorrow. Next, please. So I'm basically going to give an international overview first of the policy framework, sustainable development goals, and human right to water and sanitation, and how to meet basic needs and what access to water and sanitation means for women and girls. Next. So in the international framework, access to water and sanitation, it was under Goal 7 of the Millennium Development Goals, which were adopted by the General Assembly in the year 2000 and went into 2015, and it was to reduce by half the number of people without access to water and sanitation. And then it became goal 6 of the Sustainable Development Goals, which were adopted by all 193 members of the UN in 2015, and they run to 2030. In 2010, the General Assembly adopted a resolution on the human right to water and sanitation. And in 2011, that same resolution was adopted by the Human Rights Council in Geneva. UN Water is where I was working in the UN. It's the UN coordination mechanism on water and sanitation, and they had branches in all the regional commissions. So I was working under that when I was in Thailand, as well as here in New York. And then the General Assembly adopted a resolution for announcing World Water Day would be March 22nd every year in 1993, and adopted a resolution on World Toilet Day, which would be celebrated on November 19th, and they adopted that in 2013. We have been through 3 water and sanitation decades, and I was part of the program in the first 2. Next, please. So the International Drinking Water Supply and Sanitation Decade was from 1981 to 1990. And as part of that, we had an interagency committee on women in water. And I sat on that committee, and there was a big emphasis on getting women involved in water management, and particularly in maintenance and repair of water systems, and acting as minders of water systems. The International Decade for Action Water for Life ran from 2005 to 2015. I was the focal point for that in UN headquarters, and I was the task manager of the Interagency Gender and Water Task Force. So again, there was a lot of emphasis on getting women and men involved in water management. And then currently we're in the International Decade for Action, Water and Sanitation, Water and Sustainable Development, which started in 2018. And I've already retired from the UN, so I'm just looking at that from afar. Next, please. So let's look at the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of these goals, as you probably know. They were adopted by all members of the UN in 2015. And Sustainable Development Goal 5 is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. And I want to talk about the interconnection between Goal 5 and Goal 6. So to ensure women's full and effective participation and equal opportunities for leadership, and that certainly goes for the water and sanitation sector, and to undertake reforms to give women equal rights to economic resources and access to ownership. And this includes control over land, water, and natural resources. And that's very important because women often don't get access to water and sanitation. Next. Sustainable Development Goal 6, of course, is water and sanitation, our favorite goal. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all by 2030. And as 6.2, target 6.2, paying special attention to the needs of women and girls and those in vulnerable situations. Mind you, I think it should say paying special attention to the leadership potential of women and girls rather than just putting them in vulnerable positions. But anyway, so that is Sustainable Goal 6, and you can see how the 2 are interconnected, gender and water. Next, please. So let's go to the human right to water and sanitation. As I mentioned, the General Assembly adopted a resolution in 2010, assuring that clean drinking water and sanitation are essential to the realization of all human rights. It calls on states and international organizations to provide financial and other resources to help developing countries provide clean, safe, and accessible drinking water and sanitation for all. Now, many countries, especially in the developing world, since if they've revised their constitutions since 2010, they've incorporated a right to water in their constitutions. And South Africa incorporated it in its constitution in 1994, which had a big influence on getting this adopted by the General Assembly. Next. So what do we mean by meeting basic human needs? What is access to water and sanitation? Well, we are not talking about water flowing in your kitchen sink or a flush toilet in your bathroom. As according to the WHO, access to safe drinking water is just 20 liters per person, or that is about 5 gallons per person per day, from a protected water source. And that protected water source should be within 1 kilometer walking distance from the household. So it means that if a woman has to walk 1 kilometer to a fresh spring or a tap, a communal tap, and bring it back home on her head, that is considered access. So it's much less than we are used to. Access to improved sanitation can mean improved pit latrines, composting toilets, communal latrine complexes, anything that's more than open defecation, basically. And I think this was, the Glass report estimated that investment has to triple to meet the water and sanitation goals, the SDG, to $114 billion a year, which is really small when you think about the Pentagon budget each year. So it's really not much, and we're talking about the whole world. It seems low to me. And yet, and then the WHO report several years ago estimated that investments in water supply and sanitation yield benefits 5 to 46 times the investment. And this is probably because of reduced costs of public health, and also increased productivity in the workplace because people are healthier. Next.
Oh. Sorry, I have to.
Oh, now there we are.
Oh.
Okay, so that's meeting basic human needs.
So which
can you make it on the full screen?
yeah, so it was
yeah, that's where we were. Now we're at reality check, right?
okay.
And if you can, yeah, there you go. So no, we already talked about that one. Okay, reality check. Over 2 billion people already live in regions with high water stress, and I'm sure T.H. Culhane will speak about this too. And 2/3 of the world's population will be facing water stress. Of course, this is a projection by 2030, unless current habits change. Okay, so we have to protect water. We have to save water. We have to reuse water, and we have to stop polluting water through toxic wastes and sewage outflows. That has to change. I mean, it is changing, but too slowly. Over 844 million people still lack access to basic drinking water supplies, and 2.3 billion to basic sanitation, and that's about 40% of the world's population, lack access to basic sanitation. About 200,000 people die every month due to preventable waterborne diseases such as diarrhea and cholera and typhoid and so on. So this is a terrible, 200,000 people. It's the number of people that have been killed by COVID in this country. But this is every month due to preventable disease. And then access to clean water and sanitation is crucial for development, for good health, for poverty alleviation, and gender equality. Next. So today we are celebrating World Toilet Day. It's normally on November 19th. And the theme that was set by UN Water for this year was sustainable sanitation and climate change. So World Toilet Day celebrates toilets and raises awareness of the 4.2 billion people living without access to safely managed sanitation. Today, the world's toilets and sanitation systems are under threat from climate change, flooding, drought, and sea level rise can damage any part of a sanitation system, toilets, pipes, tanks, and treatment plants, spreading raw sewage and creating a public health emergency. Now, this kind of raw sewage going into the Hudson River is common in our area. It happens in Yonkers, it happens in Haverstraw, it happens in New York City. So we are not immune to this kind of climate change stress and emergency. These effects are becoming more frequent and more extreme. We must make our sanitation systems resilient to floods and sea level rise in order to prevent raw sewage from going into our waterways. Next. So, how to protect our health? How do toilets protect our health? How does access to toilets and sanitation affect women and girls? First, toilets, clean water, and hand washing facilities help prevent communicable diseases such as COVID-19, cholera, and typhoid. Sanitation and hand washing in healthcare facilities and schools reduce infection and mortality rates, especially in maternal and child health. Secondly, water and sanitation in schools, now lacking in 40% of the world's schools. If in schools separated by boys and girls, enable girls to stay in school with dignity, enabling them to go to school during menstruation periods. Girls' education is one of the biggest contributors to social and economic development. In addition, access to water and sanitation relieves women and girls from the burden of collecting water every day, providing time for education and income-raising activities, and it also reduces violence against women. Next, please. So when I was in the UN Water had a focus area on gender, water, and sanitation. It became a sub-program of UN Water. And the goal was to ensure the participation and involvement of women in all water-related development activities. By the way, that picture is of a village in Chile, and the woman in the middle with the dark glasses on was the head of the water committee, and it was a very well-functioning water and sanitation committee. Next, please. So why focus on gender, water, and sanitation? And I've already alluded to some of these, but women had 1/3 of the world's households. They are generally responsible for providing food, water, sanitation, and healthcare for their families. It's also been found that women are responsible for producing 60 to 80% of the food in most developing countries. When the men are out in their irrigated fields producing food for the market or crops for the market, women are producing food in small plots by the household. And they devote great amounts of time and energy locating and transporting water. Women care very much about the systems working, and yet they have very little say in what type of facilities they receive. Next. So empowerment of women related to water and sanitation takes many forms. The sociocultural empowerment of women is improvement of their self-image and dignity. It makes a difference to have a toilet rather than having to defecate in an open field. They are recognized as farmers and community leaders. Secondly, political empowerment. Women have gained leadership positions in local government, water user groups, and various types of local women's groups, and they can influence decisions and the way decisions are made on the type of facilities they have in the village. Economic empowerment, adequate water for irrigation and small enterprises, and less time spent hauling water frees women from a lot of unnecessary burdens. And physical empowerment, accessible water and sanitation reduces the physical burden, improves health and personal security. And then I'll just say something about this picture. It was in Bangladesh. It was an FAO project, and the woman in the middle there has a project, and she was producing vegetables and livestock. And she's so proud that her daughter next to her is going to university. That's that's where the difference comes. Next, please. So among the many potential contributions of women, they can be trained as managers, engineers, and technicians in the water and sanitation field. And by the way, there are a lot of affirmative action programs in countries in Africa that encourage women to become engineers and technicians. These have been very successful in places like Uganda and South Africa. They can be trained to do fundraising and collecting fees for functioning water facilities, and they can be very useful and trusted in that role. In some countries that we studied, women have been trained in the construction of latrines and handling of wastewater and producing those porcelain squat toilets, which have been very successful in improving sanitation facilities. They're minders of communal water and sanitation facilities in countries like India. And they provide a reservoir of knowledge on the best and most protected water sources and the cleanest water sources. Finally, they provide leadership in water and sanitation user groups, as I've mentioned, and they can advocate for protection and stewardship of the watershed. Finally, first responders in disaster emergencies, we found this particularly in countries like Bangladesh, where the literacy rate is low in rural areas. And women were trained to respond to flags showing that flooding was coming, and they would take the children and the animals up to higher ground. So they can be first responders, as they usually stay at home, even when they are not literate. Next, please. But capacity building is needed to increase the number of women as managers, engineers, and technicians. And as I mentioned, there are affirmative action programs in many countries to encourage women to do this. Projects designed with the full participation of women and men are more sustainable. And the picture on the left is a woman in a program in Uganda, and on the right was in Bolivia when they were protesting against rising water fees. Next, please. Yeah. So how can we get involved? So the 2020 Progress Report on WASH in Schools, this is part of the WHO UNICEF joint monitoring program, and it's now at www.washdata.org. If you want to look at what the current situation is related to COVID-19 and water and sanitation in schools. The Women's Environment and Development Organization has a gender and climate action task force, and so they've done a lot of work on gender and climate. And this is Women Deliver is a program in New York and throughout the US, and they have a program on COVID-19 response. And just for your information, for the Hudson River Keeper, I have been a so-called citizen scientist, where we're taking water quality sampling. And, you know, I suspect that during the COVID, the Hudson River has cleaned up somewhat because there's less activity along the river. But I'm also worried that we're not doing the water quality sampling. And so therefore, you know, some of these tributaries may be delivering, again, toxic wastes or sewage outflows, and we're not catching it. Because if you are doing the quality sampling, you can pinpoint where that kind of toxic waste is coming from. Scenic Hudson, they have great trail builders. And of course, during COVID-19, we've all been out on the trails. I hope the rest of you have, because that's all you can do. You can go on a trail. And I tell you, the number of people that have been out in national parks and state parks has been increasing tremendously during COVID-19, which is a good thing. And then just another example, there are many, many, but just another example is the Water and Sanitation Rotary Action Group. And most of our towns and villages have Rotary clubs. And each of those Rotary clubs usually has a water and sanitation project. And many of them are in developing countries in Africa and Asia. So that's another way to get involved. Next, please. Just some networks. There's still the Washington Schools Project, WHO and UNICEF. The Gender and Water Alliance I used to be part of, it used to be very active, but it's now become very small because it ran out of funding. Nobody wanted to support us. Too bad. The Sustainable Sanitation Alliance, SUSANA, is something that you could look at if you're interested in getting involved in these programs. And foundations, the Clinton Global Initiative has a water and sanitation program. And the Gates Foundation, I'm sure TH knows about this, has a big sanitation and hygiene program with all kinds of incentives for building new toilets, new effective toilets. And the CEO water mandate, there's something that's over there. CEO water mandate is part of the Global Compact. And the Global Compact is at the UN, and it's trying to encourage companies to be better, socially responsible citizens. And the PepsiCo Foundation is one of the, and the Global Water Challenge. There are a number of companies that have made commitments. And one of the people on our board, Dan Baina, was one of the board members of the CEO Water Mandate. And if you're interested, we can put you in touch with him. And then NGOs such as WaterAid. I really enjoyed working with WaterAid when I was at the UN. They're a very effective organization. They have an office in New York. They're based in the UK. And of course, NGOs that are more well-known like CARE and Oxfam are also doing tremendous work in water and sanitation. So I hope you get involved. The way forward, I say it's the soft path, because I'm never talking, and even at the UN, when I was at the UN, we were not talking about actually building latrines, even though historically the UN was involved in such programs. But now it's just more policy oriented. So these are the kinds of things that we would encourage. Including water conservation and protection in school criteria, getting kids involved when they're very young. And I know that's happening in a lot of schools. Provide economic incentives to reduce waste, recycle, and reuse. I'm afraid we're still far behind on trying to conserve water in this country, and especially in places like New York with adequate water supplies, but we really need to improve recycling and reuse of water. Building capacity among women and men in engineering and technical fields, as we've mentioned, and improving efficiency and reducing losses in water distribution and sewage systems. There are still lots of leaks and a lot of unaccounted for water that really need to be cleaned up so that we don't waste so much water. Finally, raising awareness through advocacy and campaigns such as Wash in Schools, global water conferences, TV and social media, and other, and universities like Mercy College, and involve local leaders and women as role models in campaigns to restore our respect for water. So thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate it. And Michiko, I think there's one more slide.
Okay. Sorry, I got stuck.
She got stuck. It's okay. It just says thank you.
And
it has the websites. That's all. That last one is just just has UN Water, UNA USA, and Sustainable Development Goal 6. But I'm sure you can all find these easily. So thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to listening to T.H. Culhane talk about biodigesters.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Marcia,
You're
for
welcome.
very powerful presentation. We hear your passion.
Thank you.
So shall we ask questions first, or we will invite Thomas first?
I think let's go with Thomas, don't you think? And then we can ask for both, or
Okay.
what do you think? Up to you.
Yeah, okay, maybe we can invite Dr. Thomas Culhane first, and then please keep your questions ready, or you can write in the chat box, okay? So let's welcome Dr. Thomas Culhane.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Is everything
Yes,
coming?
yes.
Excellent, and I'll be playing some computer audio. Let me know if it doesn't play, because then I'll have to reshare, but I toggled that share computer audio. I'm really excited to do this, as every year. Thank you, Marcia, for another comprehensive and engaging and galvanizing talk. Every time I listen to you, I realize that we have an extra burden to make these goals realizable within the timeframes than we set, and they should have been realized decades ago. But we keep pounding the drum, don't we? We keep spreading the faith as we can, spreading the gospel, the good news of the solutions that are out there. And as you pointed out, so many of them are simple, and so many of them rely on us really empowering 50% of the human population, empowering women and girls. It's one of the most important things. And it's sort of ironic that I'm the one doing the speaking today on behalf of the Culhane family. My wife is in attendance. She's just got our newborn baby on her lap. She's in the other room. And so she's watching, because she's been pushing this agenda of living these solutions with me and with our newborn baby. So I'm not actually on this beach, obviously, in Haiti, that you see behind me, but I think it's a good slide to have, because I'm in quarantine right now. I have COVID-19, so I'm locked in a study, separated from my wife and child and mother. But the COVID epidemic, as you pointed out, Marcia, is sort of a double-edged sword. It's raising our awareness of our vulnerability. But as you pointed out, over 200,000 people are dying unnecessary deaths from the burden of disease every month, is what you said, right? Caused by basically a misunderstanding of how organic residuals that pass through our bodies, that is toilet waste, can be dealt with and transformed from a bad into a good. And because the education on this and the experience with this is so sorely lacking, particularly in the United States, I'm afraid to say, and that we really are behind, as you said, Marcia, in our approach to recycling, reusing, transforming, transducing, we're allowing people to die. And so this beach behind me, if you actually were with me and the Mercy College students who went to Haiti and the Dominican Republic on one of our trips, and you saw the beaches that our students' families have to go to in the Dominican Republic, filled with fecal material, filled with industrial waste, sewage overflows, you would be appalled. And if you'd gone to Haiti, as we did with one of our Mercy students, and then we have a project, and you saw that millions of children died because of cholera, because a fecal material from some of the people who'd come in from outside Haiti to help with the earthquake had defecated in open pit latrines, and the cholera they brought from other countries in the world contaminated the water supply in Haiti and caused terrible death. Then you see that this is an urgent situation. And it really galvanizes me, because when I was, for example, working with President Obasanjo in Nigeria, the week that we were building biodigesters, going to his churches and his schools and his community and his universities, building solutions to this, 900 children died in Lagos because a sewage pipe broke and contaminated the water supply that week. And the former president was just devastated. And he's like, how do I reach my people? He was trying his best, bringing experts from Mercy College, from Berkeley. We were all there at his invitation to solve this problem, and nonetheless, children died. So I've kind of cut my teeth on this problem, seeing it firsthand. I've lived in the slums of Cairo, lived in the slums of Brazil. I've seen the effects of this. but somehow I've become known as the poop guy. And Newsweek did a special back in 2015, Harnessing the Power of Human Waste to Survive, where I said humans are almost self-contained biospheres. And they talk about the harnessing the power of poop. And I guess it's okay to be the poop guy because I live it. And I want to show you some video that shows how I live this and why I think that we can all get a handle on this if we really focus on it and not just once a year. So let me show you, here's a piece that, can you see the screen okay? Here's a piece that that ABC News did a couple of years ago in 2019, last year, I guess it was. I want to show you a piece of that. Again, let me know if it plays.
To you, lately, how we power our world has
Yes.
sparked debate, and for really good reason.
Can you put it on full screen? Oh, there. Now it's
a growing threat.
And tonight, in our brand new Full Circle report, Michael Paluska showing us how energy companies, scientists, and one man right here in the Bay Area are all working together to erase their carbon footprint.
That's a skin of some animal, so that's definitely beef. Avocado skin here, more chicken there.
The leftovers in your fridge might not be how you envision energy. But for Dr. T.H. Culhane, this ground-up slop, the food your parents told you to scarf up, is one of his most valuable resources.
Pollution is merely the right thing in the wrong place at the wrong concentration at the wrong time.
This is a 25-watt foldable solar panel.
The National Geographic explorer and professor at the University of South Florida's Patel College of Global Sustainability lives 100% off the grid.
That's radical adult responsibility. So we have this lived demonstration here, life tested by my wife and I over 10 years. So basically this is a big fart tank, and we feed it now food waste, and I'll show you that right now.
Culhane gets dirty for his energy, and for him, it is worth it. The blended food goes into a tank called a biodigester, and in 24 hours, this bucket will produce 2 to 3 hours of clean biogas.
Ow. Now do you believe it?
None of Culhane's food goes into landfills, and this is important because the USDA shows Americans wasted 133 billion pounds of food in 2010. Most of it ends up decaying in landfills, releasing methane into the atmosphere, a greenhouse gas considered a major contributor to climate change. When nature calls, Culhane recycles that too. Human waste, another source of biogas.
And there's no shame, no fecophobia. It's like, well, you just have to put these things in the right place.
And there's a lot of it in a lot of places. Everything he uses on his farm stays on his farm. Most big power companies dig for it. A majority of it fracked. A massive network of pipes sends it to power plants across the country.
It has two combined.
Let me pause on that for a second. So you get the idea that we're trying to go mainstream with this, and it's great that Mike Paluska came and did that beautiful piece. And there's a little thing at the end. The piece actually ends with us as well, where I'll just show you the ending here. He actually came in the house. So here we go. Let me rise this a bit here.
1.5 degrees Celsius, but can we do it fast enough?
The biogas that we're producing here is a good made from a bad.
Culhane says we have to because there is no planet B.
The fact that with a teacher's salary, that we can live completely off grid, causing harm to no one, and taking care of the burden of people's waste and turning them into valuable things, makes me feel dedicated and hopeful, but then worried that I can't get the message out quickly enough.
In Tampa, Michael Paluska, ABC Action News.
So it was really gratifying to be the beginning and the end of the piece, and they did a really nice write-up on it that you can see. But this has been my life. This is something I actually started when I was living in Cairo, Egypt, and then went on and lived in Germany, and then working with National Geographic with the Maasai people in Kenya and Tanzania. But then I took it to Mercy College, and at Mercy is where we really developed the ability to do indoor biogas. And for the first year that I was at Mercy full time, we had biodigesters taking toilet waste and food waste up in the lab across from the cadaver lab in the main building. And now they're still actually in a shed in Mercy waiting for other Mercy students to get re-engaged and use them. But we ended up proving that you could do it indoors. And one of the things when I say doing it indoors, in my mother's apartment, which is here, this is the apartment that I'm staying in quarantine now. We had, when I was a Mercy full-time faculty member living in Dobbs Ferry, we had this little biodigester. And the time that I was at Mercy, I would do my business in this unventilated bathroom with no windows and just poop into this little bucket that we built with our students at Mercy. And you can see that the first day that we got gas, you can see I'm a lot younger in that picture. But
Okay. Hi, this is T.H. Gilhane for Solar Cities, and I've just gotten back from Turkey, seeing how the bathroom biodigester is doing, and I'm going to light the lighter here, and we'll see the gas. So there you see it. Got some nice biogas there coming out, and yep. So got methane. It's time to start feeding. Thanks.
now this is,
Okay.
these experiments I started back in Germany. This was the first bathroom biodigester that I built back in 2011. You can see it goes back a ways. And I want to show you how this worked out.
So there's the feeding tube.
Yeah.
With a valve to open and close it.
That's the.
That goes down to the bottom. The gas comes out here. And then from the middle of the tank is a pipe going up into here, but then there's a pipe here going to the bottom again, because we always want to put the food all the way to the bottom. So there's a pipe that goes all the way down to the bottom there. This one, there's a pipe going to the middle.
So this isn't rocket
Instead of
science.
putting the hole in the middle, I put it up here.
Okay, you fertilizer.
Yeah, and if you open this,
Yeah, I hear you.
here, carry on.
Can I do it?
Leave it actually open,
Okay.
because then the gas will push the toilet water out. This one is a new idea. I don't have to drill anywhere in the tank. This one,
Okay, so we'll go,
So
just go a little
just-
farther forward.
Now, as you can see, we are working on experiment of toilet waste. We're trying to explain about it, but now we are working on it physical.
So this is Chido Iwuna, who is married to a German, and his children and my children play together, but he took me to Nigeria to stay with the former president. And it was in his community with his mother in Nigeria that we began talking to local community members about the number of children that were dying. And he was adamant about finding a solution. So when you have friends from around the world, and I love about the international programs that we have at Mercy and all the students we have around the world, they really do invite you over to their homes, like the old Dr. Seuss book, Come Over to My House. And so whether we were going with our Mercy students to Dominican Republic or to Haiti, or we were going to Israel and Palestine, met Sheila Gersh's son, Akiva, several times on our Mercy trips to Israel, and went over environmental education with him. So a shout out to Sheila, who started these programs for Mercy. The programs that we have at USF, this international community we've created leads to us coming up with real practical solutions. So here Chido was making this video for his family and friends in Nigeria while he's in Germany.
Right here, you can see where we normally pour the waste from toilets, what goes in here. So we try to pour it here, inside here. And it works like this. Here comes the toilet waste, and the fertilizer goes here. So as you can see here, produce gas, and the fertilizer produce also gas. It's only the difference is that here you have more gas than here. So after producing small gas, the fertilizer, the rest goes where you can make use of the fertilizer in your garden or whatever. Just to see the way the fire is going. Is it not wonderful? This is your shit. Something you shit and you close your nose, that is what is producing gas for you. This is wonderful. And we spend a lot of weeks to prove this and to show it to people, the rest of the world. So let me try on the light to see if it works. So first you on here. Oh, you see the fire? This is from what we are putting out from our body. We call it shit. Or I normally call it stone, you know. So this is what it's giving us. You can use this to cook. This small tank can give you around 20-25 minutes to cook. But if you have bigger one, you can use it to cook for so many hours. The bigger the container is, the more you have gas. So that's it. We're still on so many other explanations. We're always every day sleeping, thinking what we can do, how to bring more technique in the world so that people can know what to do with their waste, because this is shit, but it's giving you gas. Something we are throwing away, something is destroying our environment. That is what is giving us gas. You save money, you make your environment clean, you reduce the flies and the mosquitoes. So,
and what about smell? You're in the bathroom.
Oh, it doesn't smell. I smell nothing. I only smell the gas when it's on. So, but remember, if you shit and you don't flush it out, you know how it's going to be. I don't think if somebody can enter inside there. But you put it inside here, it smells nothing. It's even open. It doesn't smell and it gives you gas.
And the smell of the gas is like normal gas smell?
No, it doesn't have any, it has different smell anyway.
So this is one of the things that people are always saying is like, well, I understand that there are biological processes, that you can do biogas, that you can do composting, but what about that smell? Ew, that smell. And those of us who've lived with this have proven that there is no malodiferous smell. There's things you can smell if you don't burn the gas, if you don't plumb things properly, but nothing that elicits the gag reflex, nothing that could make you, it's nothing like even your garbage can or the alley out back your house. These solutions are so simple, so elegant, so easy. I mean, these are just old, beer making tanks, and you can make these solutions out of anything. And that's really what we've been working on. So there's two ways really that you can deal with toilet waste at home. I want to share with you from 2015, a trip that we made up with some of our Mercy students to the Rockefeller home at Harvard. This is Chris Lindstrom, the son of Abby Rockefeller, who's been championing composting toilets for the past 45 years, all over Massachusetts and New York. Her husband at the time, Mr. Lindstrom, invented the Clivus Mulchum composting toilet. And of course, in their home in Cambridge, Massachusetts at Harvard, they have 4 Clivus Mulchum toilets in this massive house compound. It's a very large home, multi-family home. And here's Chris telling us about his family composting toilet in the house.
Childhood home, this is where I grew up. We're in the bathroom. And what is different about this house and most every other house is that we grew up with toilets that did not flush. So what we have here is a Clivus Mulchum composting toilet. And this is based on one of the original composting toilet designs. It was invented in Sweden in the 1950s by my grandfather, Rickard Lindström. And it is a no flush composting toilet. There's a chute that goes directly down to the basement. So that means it's obviously there's no water used. What's that? Oh, and then so every time you use this, you add, well, if you were to do make a solid deposit, you would add wood shavings. And that's to add more carbon, so there's a proper carbon to nitrogen ratio. So I will take you downstairs to show you the basement and the actual tank.
And there's more than one of these, is that right?
Yeah, there's more than one I can show you.
So what's really amazing is this is an indoor composting toilet in a beautiful home in Cambridge, Massachusetts, owned by the Rockefeller family. To dispel any myths that they only are good for developing regions, for poor communities. These are the wealthiest people, former oil company family.
Original design that I think my mom developed, which has a lid over the toilet seat. So it's kind of like a bench. And that's
impressive.
Yeah.
And this is
and this is a urinal. That was thrown as a ceramic urinal. It was made by a really talented potter.
And the cover material is in there too, right?
Hmm?
There's cover material in there.
In the urinal?
No, in the.
Oh yes, in here. There's another lid. That's what we keep.
So that's what you're using instead of water.
Yeah, that's what we're using instead of. Yeah, basically that's.
My experience is you can use leaves and grass and scented geraniums.
Yeah, any kind of carbonaceous material.
Yeah, because we were doing this in Guatemala in the Mezquital slum, and all we had as cover materials go out with scissors into the street in the slum and cut some weeds, but it worked perfectly well.
Yeah. Mimicking nature.
So you could use these onion husks as well for families that don't have wood shavings.
Onion husks.
Yeah, this.
Oh yeah.
That.
Yeah. Possibly. But super dense carbon.
And this is important to note because a lot of people say, well, I couldn't use a composting toilet because I can't get access to the wood shavings or the cover material. And you can use anything, basically grass. But there's the composting toilet.
We have two tanks here.
One of them.
Both from, each one is from a different era, a different design. And this one right here is one of the original Cleats designs. This was not that different than the one that my grandfather invented in Sweden. And well, the commercial one that he put together, because he built the concrete
So
system.
I'll just go through and
anything in the clevis you can
show you the inside.
It's completely sterile. It's very dry right now. So.
And there's some bones in there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's kind of what bones get left. They do not break down.
So this isn't from all the carnivory from you eating people and the cannibalistic ritual.
No.
This is you throw your kitchen scraps down.
This is chicken bones and other bones.
Because you're using it not just as a toilet, you're using it also as a composter.
As a composter, yeah. And you can put meat in here, which is often a taboo in conventional composting worlds. But here you can pretty much compost anything that's organic. Right down there you have the pump, which is that's the liquidification process. So you use directly on your plants, diluting it about 1/3.
Can we look in the inspection hatch, or is that not?
Yeah, it's gonna be a little icky for squeamish people.
Squeamish people? Turn your eyes.
Turn your eyes. Don't look in here. So right here, this is where all the food scraps go.
So there's a toilet right above.
The toilet waste is in the back. Yeah.
And there's the nozzle for
that's
jet of moisture, right?
That's moisture, yeah. So you really do need to keep it moist. If you didn't add water, the compost pile would dry up because there's a fan in the back that's pulling the air out of this up a vent.
Mm-hmm.
So so that it's constantly keeping it aerated. There's a lot of so that's a little crusty there. Yeah, it was the liquid, but that is is no longer. This is the one of the original. It's really going to.
Oh, toilets. Okay. So you basically see there's other ones in the house as well.
Model. It is. That's a fan right there. This is the sprayer, and then it uses a foam.
And then it settles down, and this is where you pull out the cured.
Yeah. This is where you would remove stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This is
how often do you
thoroughly broken down? Move compost.
So the basic idea is there's a million different ways to deal with compost, to deal with toilet waste, to deal with food waste, to deal with biodigesters. Anybody can build one of any size in any circumstance. It can be urban in an apartment complex. It can be rural. We have our own composting toilet. You can see here that we just finished building for our students at the Rosebud Continuum Sustainability Education Center where I live. Here's a little video on that. I'm actually from the Rosebud Continuum Eco Science Center, where we are inaugurating the composting toilet that has just been built on the property to accompany the wonderful biodigesters that we have. And when school kids come out next week, that'll be what they will use for the first time. And if you come on along, I'll show you a little sign I put up yesterday to carved at the X part. It tells you at Kibbutz Lotan with Alex Sisselski and Mike Kaplan and the gang over there when we were building biodigesters in Israel on the kibbutz at the Eco Village, Lotan Eco Village. And the idea is to have the material go into, as you can see over here, go into a 55-gallon drum on wheels with urine separation at the bottom that'll come out in a hose, and then we'll put a buried collection for the urine. That's not there yet, but then whenever a barrel is filled, it'll just get wheeled out and then set to cure, because people recommend about 6 months, 8 months to finish off human manure compost for health and safety regulations. Let it stay aerobic, let it be thermophilic, let it heat up and destroy any possible pathogens. And then you just wheel another barrel right in. They've been fixed with the plumbing, and I don't know if this one has it in to show you. Yeah, it does. So you can see what's going on the inside of this. So we have a metal grate here, and we have these cut tubes here that let air work its way. So Marcia, you mentioned the Bill Gates Foundation and the grants for doing toilet improvements. We have at USF in the engineering department a very complex 40-foot container and 20-foot container that Daniel Yu and his students developed with the Gates Foundation with $1 million grant for deployment. But when I look at that and then I compare it to the stuff that, for example, this design that I learned in Kibbutz Lotan when we brought our Mercy students to that Eco Village kibbutz on one of our trips, and we saw this and the students said, oh heck, we could build that. And it doesn't cost $1 million, it costs, $100. So when you travel around the world and you see how simple some of these solutions are, you mentioned pit latrines. In Nepal, I was in a village in the Hinku Valley where the Sherpa people had built houses out of stone. And this is on the way to Mount Everest Base Camp, so it's very cold there. And they would get rhododendron leaves from the forests below and carry them up in sacks. Next to the building, they had a stone composting toilet on 2 levels, and you went into the top level and you did your business, and then you dumped rhododendron leaves on top of your business, and then it heated the home beneath because the stone walls were a thermal mass and compost heats up. And so by having the right design of just letting air in, even though it's frigid air up there in the highlands of Nepal near Mount Everest, the Sherpa home was kept warm by compost heat, and many of the Sherpa homes had this. Then down in the Khumbu Valley, there was the Rai people who never really talked to the Sherpa people about toilets because it's considered impolite. Now, they always met one another because they're both guides on the trails for the trekkers to Mount Everest, but they never talk toilets. So I come down with my Sherpa friends and meet with my Rai friends, and we're staying in a village, and they had a pit latrine by the river, And people were beginning to complain that it was contaminating the river, and they were worried that people would get sick and die. And without saying much, I started gathering leaves. And every time I went to do my business, I'd get a little bucket of leaves and bring it with me and just dump it in the pit latrine after I did my business. And I came out one time and a woman came up to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing with my leaves?" And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, your leaves." She said, "I use those leaves for compost to create fertile soil for my garden. I see you gathering leaves from my home area," like I didn't know it was her home area, "and you're taking them and putting them in the toilet. Like, why?" And I said, "I'm composting in the toilet." And she said, "Oh my gosh, that's brilliant." And so they started to do it themselves and noticed that then the flies stopped, these odor vanished. It was just a matter of increasing the carbon to nitrogen ratio, getting it right, like Chris Lindstrom showed in the Rockefeller home. If that cover material is in a pit latrine, it becomes a composter. If it's not, it just sits and festers and creates a terrible disease burden. So whether it's in a 55-gallon drum or a 96 drum on wheels, all you do is do your poop and throw a bunch of leaves and grass and carbon material on, and the darn thing works. It's that simple. In our case here, you know, we have the fan vent, but we don't need it. And if you look inside, you can see it's the same thing that Chris has. If I can find the picture of it, here it is. It's just a chute. It goes down. So simple are these techniques that it makes me feel that we in the Mercy community and the USF community and the international community have got to get some lived ground truth, get young people, old people, everybody in between to try these techniques, not just to learn about them abstractly from a presentation or a conference, but we need to have examples all over Westchester County, like the one up at the, Saul sent me up there, oh gosh, what's the name of the institute that we took the students to right on the Hudson River? Oh boy, I'm just blanking. They have composting toilets up there. It's
not the Hudson Institute, is it?
No, is it? It's the one that the Environmental Coalition is based in.
Oh, Black Forest? So Black, what is it called? Not Black Forest, Black something. Black,
yeah,
Black
it's right up the river. It's not far. But that's the first place in Westchester that I encountered composting toilets. And it's just getting the public to know. And we have a mandate to do it. Now, what I'm trying to do right now, I'll show you just one other clip, and then I'm going to show you how I'm trying to deal with the COVID problem of not being able to bring people there. So I can show a video of my toilet system, which is right here. Let's just go through that for a second.
This, by the way, is our toilet digester that takes all of the toilet and shower and sink wastes from our RV, all the gray water and black water, and turns it into methane gas. This inner tube, by the way, has biogas from our toilet digester. This one that takes all of the shower water and the sink water, the dishwasher, the washing machine, and the toilet waste and turns it into biogas and fertilizer for our hugelkultur bed of wonderful flowers. This is black water and gray water.
This is me doing takes for National Geographic, trying to find the right way to say it.
Wondering if this is real. This is our toilet waste digester that takes the black water and gray water from our RV. Takes the water from the shower, the sinks, the dishwasher, the washing machine, and the toilets, and turns it into this wonderful biogas for heating our shower water and for fertilizing our flower bed.
So I do those takes. It's nice to be able to show these things. So what I've tried to do is I've created a game. Here it is. This is Roblox for kids. And there's the RV that you saw me sitting by. And this is the actual tank, so that since people can't look underground and see it, I make it so that one can click on it and there it is there. And then I can move it around and show, let me zoom in on this. There it is. So what I actually have going on is it's a simple IBC tank with a feed pipe that the shower water and the toilet water all goes into. A pipe, this is what we have at Mercy College in the shed, and it used to be up across from the cadaver lab. Just a simple tank like this. It has a pipe for the gas to come out, and then it has an overflow pipe. And then the overflow pipe is going into what's called a hugelkultur, which is a German term for a pile of logs and branches and wood shavings and chips and grass and leaves. And planted on top of that are flowers and scented flowers, scented geranium and all that kind of good stuff. And we can put them anywhere. So we just started putting one next to this RV to connect it to that RV. And we have students come in and play the game. And by playing, they can begin to get hands-on experience so that when they get out into the real world, when COVID is over, they know how to actually build these things because they've used the virtual world to do so. So let me just let this load up for a second here. And is it just freezing on me? Okay, it's coming. It is coming. Sometimes these virtual things take a second because they're so memory intensive. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. It should come in a sec. Meanwhile, I'll let that do its thing. Meanwhile, we're also building games in a more professional package called Unity. And I want to show you how this is working out. In this game, we can, again, go in, come on, you can do it. I think my burden on my computer is, there it is. So here, I can come into the game and play videos. There we go. And this got onto PBS, Florida Focus.
It's great to incorporate VR and any type of technology into learning and education.
So we show all that. And I can skip around the video.
Better than those who have. Envisioning sustainability. So my goal is to make my classes as exciting as National Geographic. The classroom, it's always constrained by the mere fact that you're in a room looking at a two-dimensional plane and you need by next week to know this material in this way. So I bring these tools in and it's almost like the tools end up teaching the class because they...
So the tools teach the class. And so now students can come in and they can look at the slideshows, learn about clean energy and my experiences in Kenya with people who are using biomass to cook with. So there we have, this is Tanzania, this is Kenya. They can learn about the work that we're doing on the rooftops of Cairo, as you can see, and in
Cairo and Rio and the Masai Mara and in Middle Eastern refugee camps, learning to build their own solar water heating and food waste to fuel and fertilizer systems with me.
So they can come out and they can do self-guided tours of this. Actually, there's the Mercy class right there. There's our classroom in Mercy with the green screen producing some of these videos. But when you come around the exhibit, I can not only show the kind of technologies that we're using, like we took the Mercy trip to home biogas in Israel, and we saw their incredible toilet waste and food waste solution. But then I can come over here and walk up to the actual model and inspect it.
This is a commercial home biogas system for an average family. It comes folded up in a small box and can be set up in an hour. It consists of a flexible bag for the digester on the bottom, which you simply fill with water and inoculate with manure on the first day, and a flexible balloon on the top, which will start to fill with gas after the first 3 weeks.
Okay, so we can
It has
leave
sandbags
that.
for weight.
Then there's another one.
This is an example of the simple RT India home biogas system that I first encountered in Pune, India on apartment rooftops in January of 2009. The experience changed my life because I suddenly realized that city garbage could be an asset rather than a liability, and that we could turn all of our organic residuals, food waste and toilet waste, safely into clean fuel and nutritious fertilizer and completely eliminate disease and pollution.
So we can put these exhibits up and populate them with basically anything we want to, and then show our videos right in the back. And I can scroll through any way I want to.
My wife and I, we rarely take out the garbage. And by rarely, I mean at most once or twice a year.
Talk about recycling.
And people say, ew, how can you do that? Doesn't it smell? Well, the short answer is no, not at all. We clean and sort and store all the plastic and glass and metal and cardboard and paper and never have to worry about the stinky stuff. And that's because all of the stuff we produce that we call organic residuals, what you know as food waste and yard waste and toilet waste, and I mean 100% of it, all goes into the belly of our domestic dragon, which experts call a home biodigester. Ours is actually painted to look like a dragon. And it literally is a fire-breathing dragon. Let me explain. Whether built out of recycled plastic water tanks or made out of concrete like this big dragon here, a biodigester is simply a big stomach filled with water that digests biological material. It's filled with water and microbes, which we usually get from manure or pond muck, so we don't have to go anywhere for that. Right, OJ? And then we simply stick in 3 pipes. One for the mouth and throat to feed it, one for the liquid fertilizer, and one for the gas. So whether you buy one or whether you build it yourself, it's just a device that turns food waste into fuel and fertilizer, and it produces methane gas, which we call biogas. We use it to do almost all of our cooking, supplemented with a solar-powered cook stove. And we use it to heat our shower water, again, supplemented by solar energy. And in emergencies, like during the hurricane, we use our biogas to run clean, smoke-free generators to generate electricity. The only reason that we supplement with traditional solar energy is because sometimes we don't have enough garbage. Imagine that. While everybody else seems to worry when the trash piles up, we actually ask our friends and students to bring their food waste to us. This is why I and my team at Solar Cities have been taking this simple but effective solution all over the world. From tiny villages in Kenya to crowded apartments in the favelas of Brazil, from the US Embassy in Baghdad to our college campus, and even our own home right here in Florida. The domestic dragon comes in many shapes and sizes.
So I paused the video here. That's the one that I was showing you in the game. This is the biodigester that goes into the hugel culture being set up for that actual RV. So the game and reality have a one-to-one correspondence. But since we've had students every year come from Mercy to USF and come up to Rosebud and stay in this RV. It's one of our student intern RVs, and participate in the building of these things. And now because of COVID, we can't do that. So we do it with the virtual.
This one here that we're building for the RV. But once you have one digesting all of your food waste and turning it into fuel and fertilizer, recycling all the other so-called garbage is easy. And that's why my wife and I don't take out the trash. With a biodigester turning the organics into clean energy and healthy food again, one man's trash can literally become another man's treasure.
So I think you get the idea. And so when you come in the game, you can literally meet up to 30 students. We've held entire classes in here. They can come up and go to, oops, I'm walking too fast here. Let me go to walk. They can come up the staircase and take their rotten egg, boop, like this, and then they can jump up and toss it in the biodigester to create that beautiful blue flame. Then students can come and they can open this door here. So you can click on the door opens. Go inside, they can take the banana peel and they can drop it in the food grinder and then turn on the food grinder, which should turn on if I come, there we go. Hear the noise. And carry that bucket. Then they can come over to the grill and we can talk about how the grill is made of the biogas that is stored in this Walmart mattress. You don't need anything special. We store our gas in this Walmart mattress. We can do all of our cooking on the biogas. And I can race over, let me come over to our solar powered golf cart that our students just made. 1 second. A little unwieldy here. Come on, which way am I? Got lost. There I go. So students come in the game. There's nobody in here right now, but yesterday we had 10 different students in here, and they'll get into the solar powered golf cart. Oops, it's freezing.
So Thomas, I know this is fascinating.
Yep. Time to go.
We have 10 more minutes.
Let's go to questions.
So I'm
then.
sure that there are many questions.
Yep, let's go to questions then. I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We should organize another class.
Yep, go ahead.
So, well, Marsha has a question, right? Marsha? Sorry, can you demute, Marsha? We don't hear you.
Yeah, I have 2 questions for you, TH. One is, I've been so happy since Westchester started to collect food scraps. So we put all of our food scraps, including fish, cheese, meat, in this beautiful bucket that they gave me. And then I take it down to the DPW. We still have to take it down to the DPW, but that's fine. But it has reduced my garbage tremendously. And of course, all my garbage is dry.
Yeah, dry and
all
clean,
dry,
right?
And it's clean. And you don't even really need a plastic bag to put it in. You can just put it in the big bin. Yep. So it makes a huge difference. I do worry a bit about the plastic recycling because I'm not sure if it's really being done. But my question is, what is Westchester doing with those food scraps? Are they burning them? Are they reducing them? Are they composting? How do you think they're using them?
Used to be, when I was still living here full time, if you went down to the Dobbs Ferry train station at night, you'd see these big trains carrying stinky food waste from Manhattan and other parts up to they have dedicated biodigesters and dedicated compost. And so
in Peekskill?
Yeah, up in Peekskill.
Yeah.
And you would smell that train go by. And I think that's still going on because the governor's been quite forward thinking about making sure that the mandate is being complied with, that 100% of organics are supposed to go to either biodigesters or compost.
So do you think they're using them for energy?
Yes, Shivani Mistry, who was one of our leading students at Mercy, her dad, Jagdish, used to take us to the Yonkers-Ludlow wastewater treatment plant right on the Hudson.
Right.
He was the lead engineer for that and several other wastewater treatment plants in our area, and showed us that they had gotten Siemens cogeneration generators from Germany. We got to see that, and that they were doing cogen not just to power the plant, but to send power to houses in the Hudson Valley. So what was holding a lot of that up was people are using siloxane-based shampoos and cosmetics, and they had to put $1 million or more into siloxane removal. We want to get more people to use PABA-free, siloxane-free, additive-free shampoos and cosmetics, because that is what was destroying their engine. The siloxanes are silica, it's like sand that ruins the engines. Little things like that where the consumer isn't aware that they're contaminating the waste stream so that it's damaging these renewable energy projects as part of our education. That being said, we recognize in New York and Massachusetts the value of food waste for fuel and fertilizer, and you're seeing a major movement. Florida's way behind in that. We're now advocating, as we did at Mercy, we're doing at USF, that we need to reduce the scale. Instead of a massive biodigester or a massive compost facility, do it in your backyard, do it in your community, do it at the Groundworks Hudson where we built the digesters, right? Make it micro and on dot.
I want one of those recycling tanks that you have for the black water and the gray water. But I know it's still illegal in Westchester, but you got to work on that one, TH, because I want one of those.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, and if you just let me share screen.
At least we should be able to use the waste from the gray water as for toilet flushing or irrigating our grass. I mean, we use potable quality water for all that.
Right. And so the company that we've been working with Sheila Gersh's son, Akiva, Home Biogas in Israel, they have made it so that this system here which is available now all over the world. It has all the listings. So it's CE rated and ISO 1009, and they have the bio toilet accessory, and it's completely legal. You
That's
get this
what I
toilet.
want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it costs $1,115 with the toilet and a cook stove. Comes in these 2
Fantastic.
boxes. So it's actually here now, and I don't think anybody in Westchester could stop you from installing one of these. They're
I bet they could.
well, they might try. Well,
but okay, I have another quick question. I know, do you want to take it, Michiko?
Yeah, look, and I would like to hear from students. Anybody has questions?
Where's
Any
my
questions?
wife? She's on here.
Oh.
Hello.
Any questions? Jordan?
Questions, guys?
Yeah. Questions?
Yes, I do have a question for Ms. Brewster.
Yes.
Regarding UN water, would that be voluntary or regular budget for the UN?
Well, it's pretty, it's pretty much regular budget, because we were part of the Sustainable Development Division at the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and we were the Secretariat of UN Water, so it was pretty much included. But of course, all the other agencies are members: FAO, UNESCO, WMO. All the other agencies are members of UN Water, and they each allocate 1 person or 2 people to take care of the water projects. UNICEF had a big water section, so we would meet. We would meet twice a year, and then the Gender and Water program would be the last item on the agenda. They would give me 5 minutes at 7 p.m. I'm just saying.
Is it okay? So thank you for the question. Any more questions from students or other participants? How about Davina?
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm
To
a
whom?
little, I guess, naive to the idea of composting and food scraps. But in terms of today, I did a lot of research to kind of prep and just kind of learn a little bit more about what World Toilet Day kind of encompassed. But I have a question more focused on food scraps and composting, because I would love to start doing that from today and seeing how sustainable it could be and how beneficial it could be to save your food scraps and compost. But I can say food scraps can be any kind of food, doesn't particularly just throw it all together, doesn't matter what it is, and that's okay.
That's the change. That's the change. That's what's made it so great.
Yeah, and I can also say for anybody in an urban environment where you don't have space, so you just have a porch or even under your kitchen sink, you can now, we've done enough experiments at USF to show that if you just get a food grinder, I mean a garbage disposal, and you grind up all your food waste, meat, grease, fat, potatoes, vegetables, grind it all up, old pizza, even the pizza box and your napkins and paper plates, and grind it all together, it won't smell, and it'll turn into soil on your porch in 3 to 6 days without attracting flies or vermin. We've proven this conclusively. We're going to start publishing about it. Try it yourself. Get one of those garbage disposals, put it in a sink, like you saw in my video, grind it up into a bucket, pour it on your potted plants, just like that, without even composting. Just pour it on your potted plants, pour it on a little patch of garden. You will find that it turns into soil in 3 to 6 days if it's inoculated with a bit of soil to begin with. So if you pour it on the dirt, it'll turn into compost. If you keep it in the bucket, it'll take months to turn into compost, but it won't smell. So all you got to do is grind that silly waste up and then just spread it wherever you can, and you will find that the system, you don't even need a compost bin. It's that radical.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I have a bunch of plants as well, so that it would be super beneficial, and I also tend to sometimes not finish a lot of food, and I hate being so wasteful that way, but this is a great way to kind of not force myself to scarf down all my food, but use it in a more beneficial way. And then I live in New York City, so I'm assuming that even if I don't use it for plants or anything, there's a place or somewhere where I could go and bring that food scraps or that compost, I'm assuming.
Well, see, if you actually grind it, then, and I'll just show you this picture here. Here we ground up all the napkins and the
So we're
cardboard,
gonna
and all we did was then dump it in a bucket here. Let me show you. So you see that? That's the slurry, and if you do that, you can just dump it on the ground.
Oh,
That's
wow.
all. Yeah, just dump it on the ground, and it turns into soil in 3 to 6 days.
But she
There it
lives
is.
in New York City.
Well, right, but I mean, even if you found a, look at the small patch here. Here, this is a treatment without soil, and this is with soil. Just this area here is all soil made from food waste that was just ground up and not composted. That could fit on your porch. And I tell you, it has no smell at all.
Wow, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe we should organize a workshop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
About how to create.
yeah, I think this is just is kind of like a no-brainer a little bit when it comes to food waste and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you guys for the information.
Oh, thank you. Sol is saying, Sol?
So can I ask TH one more question?
Yes, please.
So TH, we were working on biogas when I was in Thailand at the Regional Commission for Asia and the Pacific way back when. And it sounded like such a good idea. This was the early 80s. And I just don't know. And we did a big study on it and distributed it all over the place. I just wonder how much it is actually caught on.
It's caught on in China, India, Israel, Palestine, Kenya, Tanzania, Nigeria. It's really the United States where we're having trouble getting it to catch on. Germany's doing it in a big way, so Sweden. In fact, my wife and I last Christmas were in Sweden on Gotland Island, driving a car and then a minivan around on biogas, going to the filling station, filling with biogas. And then we built a smaller digester at an eco village there. The Swedes get it, like the entire island even has the electricity coming from biogas. There's something about the market forces and the way that we educate here that it hasn't become part of discourse as the general thing. We still have a lot of myths that we're struggling with. But I think you'll find as you go around the world now that certainly in the solar countries, the tropical and subtropical countries, people get it and it's spreading like wildfire. They're just doing it.
I'm glad.
Nepal has the government-supported biogas support program that's been running for years, right in Kathmandu, and they take it out. Extension agents go out all over the country to put it in place. We just have to step up, as you said earlier, right? So we need to step up the plate here in the U.S. And what you said about recycling, I offer this to you all, and certainly to you, Marcia. Once your plastic is clean because you not have any organic stuff on it, don't throw it away, because every barrel of plastic that you keep is a barrel of oil, and it'll be valuable. And we're turning our plastic into oil in Florida. We have a plastic to oil machine. So we're hanging on to all our plastic. We're not giving it away, because you have an inert thing that doesn't break down, that does not cause any contamination. Just hang on to your plastic, shred it up and carry barrels of it, and you'll be as rich as a Saudi prince.
Oh, wow, thank you. I believe anybody has any more questions? I guess because time is up. If
Thank
you have
you.
questions,
No.
if anybody has questions, meaning from the audience, I can give it emails for Marcia and T.H. Cohen. But because it's already time, so let's thank our presenters today. Thank you so much for wonderful, fascinating, energetic presentation. And Sol would like to say something.
Right. Yeah. I'll thank TH and Marcia. Always a pleasure to have you and learn about these important consequences of our bad decisions and ways that we can do a better job to try to make the world at least marginally better. And hopefully, if everyone gets engaged in those ways, we can make it more than marginally better. The other thing I'd mention is that tomorrow, on our ongoing marking of International Week at Mercy College, we'll be having our annual celebration of World Philosophy Day, and an exciting panel of 4 philosophers, 2 from inside Mercy, 2 from other institutions, one in Italy, actually, speaking on philosophy in the age of COVID, which is a UNESCO theme for this year. And we have 4 interesting talks on that. And I see that TH is giving us a COVID-inflected cough just to help accentuate the, the program announcement. So thanks for coming by, and we'll hope to see you tomorrow. Take care.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming.